Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the best recordings of Strauss's four last songs, the Vier letzte Lieder. Now, I have been on something of a Strauss kick lately because I just did a video on the ideal Strauss operas. And then I looked back and said, my goodness, I hadn't talked about the four last songs yet. So I might as well do it now because I always have a stack of them sitting around somewhere. And here is the relevant stack. So we might as well do the four last songs. Wow, the four last songs. You know, before I did this, I did a video on the three hymns, the drei Hymnen, or whatever you call them in German. And if you don't know the three hymns, we have to start this talk of the four last songs with the three hymns because I did a talk about them. You should go have a look at that. It is such an amazing work. The three hymns are really the prelude to the four last songs. Strauss wrote them in 1921. They are larger songs. They last just as long as the four last songs, but there are only three of them. And they are gorgeous, glorious, fabulous songs about love, whereas the four last songs are songs sort of about death, the passing of time, farewell, all of that stuff. And if you put them together, you really have just an amazing Strauss experience. And we're going to talk about recordings of those too, just a little bit by way of recapitulation. But the thing about Strauss's songs, and we need to be very clear about this, is that they are extraordinarily beautiful and virtually unknown, the majority of them. Yeah, there are a couple orchestral ones that people do regularly, but by and large, if you look at the complete list of Strauss songs, there are over 40 of them that he orchestrated. And the reason that they don't get played very often is because Strauss did not write song cycles. He didn't write complete works with a single narrative thread or overarching storyline. He simply grouped together songs by various poets and published them in a clump as an opus number. In that respect, he was rather similar to Mendelssohn, who also wrote very beautiful songs, but who didn't arrange them in cycles in such a way that they would have a sort of a larger existence in the concert world. So individual singers will sing individual songs, but that hasn't, and when he orchestrated them, he didn't orchestrate them as a group. He orchestrated individual songs. So I have the score, and you can have a look at it. I showed it in the talk about the three hymns. 600 pages of stuff, more than 3 hours of music. I mean, it's as long as Die Frau ohne Schatten, of nothing but orchestral songs. And they are glorious. There's so much more than just the four last songs. And I'm looking forward to talking about more of them than the three hymns and these. But I just wanted to point out that Strauss has become known for the four last songs simply because that's the only group of songs that he wrote that get played with any regularity because they naturally fall into a clump. And when it comes to classical music and Lieder for orchestra, we are clump happy. We like to have our songs in clumps. And this is the Strauss clump. But my point is that there are other Strauss clumps, or at least there's the three hymns, that never get performed. And it's ridiculous that they don't get performed. And so I have a certain preference for recordings of the four last songs by singers who've also done the three hymns, because I think, well, you might as well have the whole shebangy, the whole Straussian experience. But when it comes to the four last songs, because they were only premiered, I think it was in 1948, somewhere around there, just after Strauss's death, they are recent. I mean, we don't think about Strauss as recent, but they are recent, fairly recent works. Their performance history is recent. Most of the singers who have sung them were people we knew about and heard well into the 60s and 70s. And so the discography is rather modern, which I think is a good thing. There are a few historical recordings. Specifically, there's Lisa della Casa, which is one of the famous ones under Karl Böhm, a performance that's very, very quick and very beautiful, but some people think it's a little bit cool. I know Bob Levine, our opera guy at ClassicsToday.com, and the vocal expert to end all vocal experts, finds them very attractive, but also a little bit distant. And I understand where he's coming from. And there are some other ones too, and we'll talk about them. There's the Old Testament released the Kirsten Flagstad Furtwängler live recording from Albert Hall, which is virtually unlistenable. And so we're not talking about that one. I'm just telling you it's out there and you should avoid it. It sounds like hell. I have chosen my 7 favorite versions with one additional thing we'll talk about at the end here. But I've just chosen 7 because you have to draw the line somewhere, as I've said. These are the ones that have stayed with me for the longest period of time, the ones that I've enjoyed the most, that I think you will enjoy the most. There are other fine versions because every soprano who ever sang Strauss does the 4 last songs. You have to do the 4 last songs. The music is so, so beautiful. And it really, and in addition to its sheer beauty and the melodic and orchestral genius that went into writing them, they so eloquently represent, you can only say, the historical circumstances of their creation. You know, a last glimpse of permanent, imperishable beauty amid the ruins of post-war Germany, where all of civilization, as Strauss knew it, had been completely destroyed. And out of that, he writes these songs, his tribute to the soprano voice, to the beauty of music as he knew it. And of course, even by the late 40s, it was evident that music was not going to be the kind of music that Strauss would have liked and loved. And this was his way of perhaps saying farewell, or perhaps saying, screw you, everything that was coming. It works either way. And my God, they're beautiful. They require singing of perfect pitch and phrasing and intelligence and control and sensitivity to the text and breathing and you name it. These things have it. And I really think that most sopranos who do them are very well aware of what a challenge they represent and how important it is that they get it right, because there are very many fine performances of them. And so this 7 is 7 out of, a vast, vast field. Some of you may have other preferences, but I like these. So there. And let's go through them one after another. We don't have to waste too much time on them because there's only 4 little songs and we can do them fairly quickly. Felicity Lot on Chandos with Nimi Järvi. These are fast performances, and they do it in the order that Strauss originally wrote them. That order, or preferred supposedly, which is Beim Schlafengehen, September, Frühling, and then finally Im Abendrot. The normal order, as you know, is Frühling, September, Beim Schlafengehen, and Im Abendrot. But I think that however you do them, in whatever order you do them in, it works perfectly well either way. I have no preference. I really don't. This is very different from Berlioz's Les Nuits d'été, in which the order that we hear them now is wrong. I mean, for me anyway, as a satisfactory arrangement of them. These 4 songs would work if you sang them backwards. Well, maybe not. Im Abendrot really needs to be the end, because it ends with the end. Ist dies etwa der Tod? Is this perhaps death? Well, you can't really start with that, can you? So these are quick, lively, fresh performances of these songs. Felicity Lot was a great Strauss soprano. She was a singer of great intelligence and impeccable taste and artistry. And Järvi accompanies, maybe he's a little rough and ready in places, you know what I mean? He could be, but it's not insensitive. It's just brisk. But these are very, very pretty performances, so they're nice to have. Also worth hearing, Adrienne Auger with Andre Previn and the Vienna Philharmonic. This is coupled to Ein Heldenleben. Previn's Strauss recordings on Telearch were really good. The Vienna ones, I mean, basically they're pretty spectacular. And Adrienne Auger was one of those singers' singer. She was one of those singers that everybody admired, everybody respected. She had a wonderful voice. She was incredibly smart in what she did. She's probably best known as like a Bach Mozart singer. And Strauss was a Mozart soprano composer, kind of, sort of, you know what I mean? Only more so, Mozart on steroids, perhaps. And these two are quite lovely performances that are likely to get lost in the shuffle, because Auger did not have that outsized personality and career as a Strauss singer specifically, but she did a lovely job here, and it's worth not forgetting about her work. Next, Leontyne Price with Erich Leinsdorf. This is a fun record. Strauss, was one of, if you listen to, interviews with Leontyne Price, that was one of her composers. Her composers were Verdi, Mozart, and Strauss, basically, and Puccini to a point. Those were the composers who she spent most of her time working on. And her Strauss singing was mostly confined to his Lieder. She didn't take on a lot of the big roles in the opera house, aside from Ariadne and Ariadne auf Naxos. And these performances are lovely. Her voice was in great shape. You get the 4 last songs. You get the Empress's dream awakening scene thing from Die Frau in Schatten, which is gorgeous. Oh my God, what wonderful music. There's not a lot of singing that she has to do in it, but it's a great chunk of music, a big hunk of the opera, like 15 minutes of stuff. And then you get the Fritz Reiner stereo, also Sprach Zarathustra, which is fabulous. But, Price's 4 last songs is typical Price. It has that rich, yummy tone that she brought to Verdi. And it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful to listen to. I can think of other sopranos that other people prefer. I mean, it's a question of taste, how you feel about the singers. And so, in your comments, you can tell me whatever you want. You can tell me which ones you prefer. I'm happy to hear that. But do me a favor. Don't go opera wacko on me and start with the I hate and I hate and she was and diva wars, and I have no patience for that. And you shouldn't either, because these are all great singers doing fabulous work. And whether they're to your personal taste timbrely or not, well, I don't care. And I'm sure no one else does either, to be quite frank. So be sure. Tell me which ones you like. Don't tell me why some famous great singer who 90% of the universe admires and respects actually sucks in your opinion. That's like, that's opera stuff. It's one of the reasons opera is so off-putting to people. Anyway, so once we get to Leontyne Price, we have to talk about Elizabeth Schwarzkopf, Madame Blackhead. And here she is. Now, she did these twice, once with Zell in stereo, and this set contains the mono versions with Otto Ackermann. Now, the mono versions are better from a soprano point of view than the Zell set. Little bit. These are little things. But she was in fresher voice then, and she sang in a less affected manner, if that's possible, with Elizabeth Schwarzkopf. And these songs, you don't have a lot of opportunity to be arch or affected with these songs. They're so difficult just to get through. There's not so much you can do. You just need to pour out the gorgeous tone and hang on for dear life as the vocal line goes floating over the orchestra. And she floats quite well here. These are very, very famous, beautiful performances worth having. But now we come to my top 3. My top 3 may be predictable and maybe not. We shall see. First of all, Jessie Norman. That's this blue one in the middle here she's wearing the awful wig. Oh my God, what a terrible picture that is. Anyway, Jessie Norman's recordings with Court Mazur were famous when they came out because they were so slow. And I remember when this disc came out and everybody was like, is she going to get through it? Does she have enough breath to do it? And boy, does she ever. This is the most, if you're just into voluptuous, sensuous vocalism, not so, when it comes to imaginative treatment of the text, well, who knows? Who's paying attention to the text? When you've got singing like this, holy mackerel. It is astonishing. It's an astonishing, astonishing interpretation and performance by any standard. And just for the singing, when you want an absolute wallow in voluptuous tone, Jessye Norman is your gal. This is the 4 last songs to have. It is just great. Absolutely great. Just about as great from a timbral point of view, but perhaps a little bit more athletic in terms of tempo and knowing in terms of word pointing, whatever that means, you point at words, is Carry-On with Gondola Janovitz. Gondola Janovitz, of course, is a great, great Strauss singer. She had an absolutely magnificent voice. She is perfect for this music, and Carry-On accompanies like a hand in a glove. I mean, boy, they are so together on this stuff. Now, Carry-On also remade the 4 last songs, and with Anna Tomova-Sintov, I believe, was the person he did it with. Not as good as this. No. If you want the ultimate Carry-On Strauss experience, you've got to get this thing with Gondola Janovitz. It comes with a great Death and Transfiguration and a great Metamorphosen. This is a wonderful disc. That's why it's a DG original, because it was always really great. And this is definitely one of the 4 last songs you should hear. I think it belongs in every last collection of 4 last songs. However, I have to pick, and my pick, quite frankly, and this one may surprise you because it's quite recent, is Soili Isakowski. Soili Isakowski with the Helsinki? The Berlin Radio Symphony under Marek Janowski, who's also a wonderful Strauss conductor. Isakowski has, I think, just the ideal Strauss voice. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. She also has tremendous intelligence and great artistry. And because I have permission to play Ondine recordings, I can play you a little sample. I'm going to play the climax of Beim Schlafengehen. You know the moment, right? Und die Seele. Well, I'm not going to sing it, but, it's when your soul goes floating around and all that stuff happens. And, she doesn't have the bigness of Jessye Norman, and the tempo isn't as expansive, and but the intonation is impeccable. The quicksilver is the word they use, that sort of slight vibrato in the soprano that's not disfiguring, but gives the music life and vigor and vitality, and her breath control is miraculous, and the phrasing makes perfect sense. She just rides the orchestra. And my God, that's what you need to hear in these songs. The voice has to simply float, and her soul detaches itself at this moment. As you can hear, just take a listen. You'll hear exactly what I mean. It's so effortless. It's so glowing and absolutely perfectly beautiful. And this is a disc that contains a whole bunch of other Strauss songs, and it's one of two. And the other disc is my recommendation for the 3 hymns. It contains the 3 hymns and the best recording of those ever made. And so if you like this, there is another disc that you can get as well, and which I talk about in that video. And that's why I think this is such a terrific option for people who are serious, not just about the 4 last songs, but about Strauss's Lieder generally. You get fantastic performances. And, Isakowski is another one of those. She's just a great singer and a great musician. She has the musicality that Strauss demands to really bring these pieces to life. And I think this is a thrilling disc. It is gloriously recorded, and you just can't do better. You absolutely can't do better. It has all of the qualities you want in a fantastic modern performance of the 4 last songs. So Soili Isakowski on Ondine is my choice. Now, although we are basically done with the 4 last song bit, I do want to point out, since we were talking about Strauss Lieder generally, the only complete set of the Orchestral Leader, and here it is. It's on the Nightingale label, which is like Edita Gruberova's label, and she's in here. She does something. But this contains all of the songs sung by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 singers. Those singers are Adrienne Auger, who does a very good 4 last songs, actually. Adriana Pichonka, Edita Gruberova, Judith Howarth, Petya Petrova, Peter Straka, Bo Scovis, and Kurt Mall. Because a lot of the songs were written for men. There are songs for guys as well as gals. And the orchestra is the Orchestra Philharmonique de Nice under Friedrich Heider. And you would think this is a serious production. Even though the orchestra is not the most famous in the world, and all the singers aren't the most famous in the world, they all do a really fine job. And there are marvelous treats in here. And someday I'm going to be talking about them in more detail. But for the moment, I just want you to know that this exists. And really, if you're a serious Strauss person, you should try and find it, because you're going to want to hear these songs. You're going to want all of them. You will love them. And, if you hear some that you particularly like, it's a wonderful library edition, and it allows you to go off on your own and hunt around for others. Now, Felicity Lot did, there is a series of Strauss songs as well on Chandos, part of which was the Felicity Lot disc. It's not as complete as this set on Nightingale, and I think the singing is sometimes more variable. But still, this is an amazing thing. And I'm shocked when I think about it. When I was writing my book on Strauss, I wrote a book on Strauss, by the way, his orchestral music and the operas and stuff, and the songs. It was shocking to me that there's only one complete set of Strauss Orchestral Leader. But there it is. This is it. It's the one. I can't believe it. You'd think somebody by now would have gotten behind this, and there would be more of them, but there aren't. It's one of those strange lacunae in the discography, because it's not as if the music isn't available. The scores are published by Boozy. I mean, the parts, you can get everything. Maybe it's too expensive. I don't know. But I think that Strauss's Lieder need to be given more attention in the realm of, Straussiana, and these are all wonderful performances. So any of these 7 4 last songs will do you proud. Isakowski is my pick for my personal favorite, and the 3-disc set of the Orchestral Leader on Nightingale. Wow, what a treasure trove that just awaits discovery. It's out there, folks. Go forth and keep on listening. Thank you. Take care.